welcome to our Max Out Your Singing Sessions session today. We're delighted to have Tom Leach and Charlotte Woodhead joining us from the award-winning Diocese of Leeds singing programme. Obviously, in normal times, they've been reaching many children across Leeds via in-person singing sessions, but recently over the last year they've adapted and they've been running online sessions, making fantastic digital resources. So we're thrilled to have them here with us presenting this session, and I'm going to pass you over to Tom and Charlotte now.
Great, thanks Elizabeth. It's lovely to see you all here, and I hope you find this session useful. We're in the hall at Leeds Cathedral, and so we can feel and see any questions on chat and stuff. We've got you up on our projector, which is slightly off to our left. So if we look a bit distracted every now and then, it's because we're looking at your lovely faces rather than into the camera. So I'm Tom, I'm the director of our school singing programme at the Diocese of Leeds. This term we're working with about 65 or so schools, seeing around 7,500 children every week with our team of choral directors. And we're really looking forward to this session today, which I hope you'll find useful. We're going to be starting off with a sample warm-up that will then deconstruct, and then we'll move through categories of different starters, warm-ups, transition songs. Some of course will be very familiar to you already, but I hope there's enough new material to make this useful. I'm now going to pass over to my fabulous colleague Charlotte to introduce herself.
I am Charlotte and I'm the Assistant Director of the School Singing Programme. I've worked on the programme on and off for many years, so I've got lots of experience working in schools.
Great, so we're going to start with a sample warm-up, as I said. If there are any problems with our audio or picture, Elizabeth will give us some feedback via the chat, which we can see very clearly on our screen. And we want this to be really interactive, so if you could stand up and imagine you are coming into our classroom, that would be ace, and Charlotte is going to be your proxy and join in on your behalf in this little bit. So,
I might even misbehave.
Misbehave? You're always misbehaving. H-E-L-L-O.
H-E-L-L-O.
This is how we say hello.
This is how we say hello.
Move your feet to the beat.
Move your feet to the beat.
Can you feel your heart beat?
Can you feel your heart beat?
H-E-L-L-O.
H-E-L-L-O.
This is how we say hello.
This is how we say hello.
Move your feet to the beat.
Move your feet to the beat.
Can you feel your heart beat?
Can you feel your heart beat?
You're standing beautifully. It's great to see everyone so engaged. Kate, your posture is a fabulous example to all of us. Brilliant. We're just going to pick on random people, by the way, like you were in our class. Pop your hand on the crown of your head and just grow your brain like an alien with a jelly brain. Feel your tummy stretching, the sternum, the chest bone lifting a bit. Imagine what galaxy you're from. Just put your arm down really slowly for me. Keep that lovely posture. Well done, Alex. Great to see you. Working very hard, listening beautifully. Swap hands. You're an alien from a different galaxy this time. If you want, you can imagine what Elizabeth would look like as an alien with a huge jelly brain. And then arm down really slowly. Keep that beautiful posture. Interestingly, I've noticed lots of you are holding your breath while you're doing it, so make sure you keep breathing. 2 brains this time. Would be so useful to have 2 of them. And keep growing them, different dimension. And make sure that your head is balancing that brain. If you tip your head back at all, the brains will fall off and splat all over the floor. Keep really poised, keep breathing. Just check in with your knees. Make sure they're nice and loose for me. Hands either side of your tummy button. We're going to see who the angriest snake at the ABCD convention is, or Choral Leaders Festival, and join in with me. Keep going. Bit angrier for me. Bit more venomous. Richard, you're looking very venomous, brilliant. Even stronger. Then really quiet on this side. Like a delicate cobweb. Can you be quieter than the person next to you? Hands on your tummy again, and as strong as you can. And relax, but I'd just like you to check that, like Elizabeth, your alien brain is still beautifully balanced on the top of your head, and I'm going to hand over to Charlotte.
Lovely. All right. Now, I want you to imagine you've got a really squelchy, almost rotten tomato in your hand, and you're going to throw them all at me, and you're going to go, whee! Splat. Can you do it? Whee! Splat. Lovely. But can they go even higher, even further this time? Ready? And whee! Splat. Lovely. Now you're going to throw some darts at my head. They're going to start quite low down, and we have a pow, pow, pow. Yeah. Pow, pow, pow. Now can you do some in the middle? Make them really pointy so they really hurt. Pow, pow, pow. Can you do it? Pow, pow, pow. Oh, they didn't hurt a lot. Okay, do some really high ones. Pow, pow, pow. Here we go. Pow, pow, pow. Lovely. Can I have some D major, please? And can you sing for me? Are you really there? Are you really there? Carry on. Are you really there? Again. Are you really there? One more. Are you really there? Lovely. Can I have C major, please? I'd like you to sing, I love to sing in the shower. Off you go. I love to sing in the shower. Can you type in the chat for me other places where we're going to go and sing? How about we go and sing in the bath? Off we go. I like to sing in the bath. Alex, one of our colleagues, has just said toilet because there is always a child that says toilet. I like to, off we go. I like to sing in the toilet. In the rain, off we go. I like to sing in the rain. Thank you, Lindsay. All right, then, can you sing for me? Can I have those notes and making melodies? Making melodies in my heart. Yeah. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart to the King of Kings. And making melodies in my heart to the King of Kings. So, and we do this a bit slow with children, but let's just go all the way through the song. Off we go. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart to the King of Kings. Add on arms up, arms up. Can you do it? And arms up, arms up. And it on the end. So making, off we go. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart. Making melodies in my heart to the King of Kings. Arms up, arms up. And then, oh, it's so funny watching everybody on screen doing this. And then we'd add on some more actions, ask children for their suggestions.
Great, so you should be nicely warmed up now. And what we're going to do is just deconstruct a little bit of what we've done. I still haven't got over the weird feeling of power of being able to ask people to stand up and sit down in their own homes. I find that weirdly satisfying.
But I think you can sit down now.
You are, I guess. So, what we've done, we started off with HELLO as a starter, and normally we'd start our sessions as soon as the first child starts coming in to the hall, which would normally be in the classroom or whatever. Obviously slightly different if you've got a rehearsal that people are already at. But the HELLO starter is just one of a number of things that are in that gap between speech and singing. They're really rhythmic, and they've got a bit of physical activity connecting with the rhythm and the pulse as well. So not only are you setting the tone of engagement right from the start of the session, but doing something that isn't sung, particularly early on in your relationship with a class, means that you are going to engage those children who have perhaps got the idea that they're not singers or haven't quite become engaged in singing yet. You're giving them permission to join in without exposing their voices. You're making them listen straight away because there are no instructions. You set up a call and response pattern that you're going to be using an enormous amount in your sessions anyway, but you're not stopping to explain, now clap, now speak and clap, now move your feet. You're just doing it. And you might repeat that a couple of times as the whole class are coming in. Because it's quite low intensity for the leader, it also means actually you can space the kids out, you can get them in their rows while you're doing this. You don't need to stop what you're doing. You're straight away introducing a bit of audiation when we're doing, they're hearing HELLO internally already. You're setting up perhaps for the next session when you use it maybe as a transition in the middle, a really good way of talking about the difference between rhythm and beat. A little extension activity that you can use is to say, you've asked a question, of course, what are we clapping, rhythm or beat in? HELLO, beat of course, and the rhythm. It's my first rehearsal since coming back. I know it's a good start, isn't it? And then of course the beat, when you're moving your feet to the beat. You can extend it a little bit by asking them to clap the beat when they're doing HELLO, and they'll have a lovely time stamping the rhythm in move your feet to the beat. So you're always trying to enrich and move on, and you can thread all of these things through your sessions. You're never trying to do it all at once. Then you've got them engaged, they've been physical, they've probably burnt off a little bit of the ditzy energy they've developed in the corridor on the way to the hall. They've not been able to talk to each other from being in the room because they're doing all the time. Of course, we want a little alignment exercise, we want them well set up for singing. The alien brain thing works nicely. And really, its whole drive, as we'll come back to a lot, is engaging imagination, using imagery to replace just instructions. And that draws you away from the kids who are like, I'm not being told what to do, or the ones who might feel that ignoring an instruction is a good way of just testing power. So with the alien brain, you've got your imagery, they're not being told to stand beautifully, it's just happening. Obviously, swapping hands does absolutely nothing. Doing two hands does nothing, but it gives you the opportunity to extend the activity without it becoming boring. And you can have that bit of humour, you know, imagine your teachers with two brains, imagine me with a jelly brain. And then later on in the session, if we're sort of getting a little bit restless, instead of that direct sort of posture out, or let's stand really beautifully, just ask them if they're still balancing their alien brain. And then immediately your posture will be sorted out without ever having to kind of get snarky about it. So you're keeping the engagement. Exactly the same in breathing activity. You've kind of imagined that it's a snake, you connected it with a bit of emotion by being angry or really precise or careful. And that's again something really clear, really physically obvious that you can connect back to at any time in your session, rather than having a lengthy explanation of how all this stuff works and giving them endless instructions. Just make sure we're working like we were when we were doing the snakes. So I'm going to hand over to Charlotte for her next bit.
No worries. So I carried on with just some sirening, some vocalisation to wake up those different vocal registers with the rotten tomatoes. And again, it's pulling in that imagery that's something fun, something silly, but that has actually got that vocal meaning behind it. I really then always start with some scales and things, and I might say things like, they're a bit quiet. I'll be like, are you really there? You know, use those words. And with the range, I started with a fairly small range of a fifth, and then worked out gradually, all right, with I Love to Sing in the Shower. And making melodies, lovely little song, and it's just finishing off your warm-up with a little song is a particular little action song. Just a nice way to consolidate things. It's engaging, fun, keep that brain working and keep blood flowing. Just before we continue, I did realise we forgot to say, if anybody does want to pop any questions in the chat, then do feel free, and we'll keep an eye on it and maybe address some of them at the end. So it's helpful to me, certainly if I'm planning a warm-up, to think of the warm-ups in different categories. So starting with a starter, like we've said, then something posture related, physical related, then something for breath. There's perhaps something for diction in there. We didn't really do a diction one, but we could put something for diction in there. Then some vocalisations to get the voice going. Then moving on to some sung warm-ups to work on the range, and then finishing off with a little song. So we've got some suggestions fitting into each of those categories for you. So I'll start with some starters, so a bit like the HELLO. It could be anything. It could be starting to sing a song that they already know, just to get that engagement going, so they're not getting distracted. I always sing hello at the start of my sessions. I always sing, "Good afternoon, everybody," and they all know to sing back to me, "Good afternoon." Oh, it's Mrs. Woodhead now. I only recently got married, so that's a bit strange. So, another one I like is a little game called Switch. Okay, if we're a bit chatty, we're a bit noisy, alright? This isn't to do with singing, it's just a nice game. So I'll say, right, you need to copy what I do. Okay, now what you need to do is I'm going to move on to the next movement, but you're not allowed to move on to the next movement until I say switch. I can already tell that Tom's going to be bad at this. Switch. 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 And so on. And this is another one that I really like. You will be getting a handout, by the way, in the chat that's got links to lots of these things from our lockdown YouTube. So it's a nice, useful resource for you. But this one goes up and down, and forward, down and back, and up and down, and forward, down and back, and around, and round. This way and that way, this way and that way. Touch your knees, touch your knees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's suggestion. As Tom said, maybe start with spoken, something spoken, and some nice ideas, and I'll show you a couple of them now from the Nikos books, the Lucinda Bjergen singing rhymes and games. All right, they're really good. So things like Coca-Cola went to town, Pepsi-Cola knocked him down, or lemon lime, keep in time, make it neat, feel the beat. Great suggestions in those books. And then finally, you might want to go not active, but start with a bit of mindfulness and stillness. Ask the children to close their eyes. You can do this now. Imagine you are standing on a really warm beach. It's a beautiful sunny day. You can feel your toes sinking into the sand. They're all warm around your feet. You can hear the waves crashing, and you can extend that picture out for that little bit of a mindfulness exercise.
I feel really relaxed now. That's great. So Charlotte's done a few of the starters, and as she said, lots of this is on the handout that Elizabeth will send to you with hyperlinks in, so it will take you to examples where we've got them. So there's no enormous need, and obviously you've got a recording, to be sort of frantically writing stuff down. After the starter, we normally move into some posture-related activities or something a bit more physical. A lot of these are, again, just establishing the pattern of instruction, quiet listening, as well as getting that relaxation. It can be as simple as just having the arms out, so I haven't quite put enough room there, and just small circles.
The size of peas.
And then you can expand your circles to being perhaps the size of 50p. Really steady though, and keep breathing. If you've done the alien head the week before, you can ask them, are you still balancing your alien brain? And they will remember because of the imagery. Let's make those circles a little bit bigger. So nice to see people joining in. Well done. And keep breathing. Car wheels. Check in with your knees, are they nice and loose? And then tractor wheels. And then we can gradually reduce the size of the circles. And then make sure that you're giving the instructions in good time. So if you want them to put their arms down slowly, you have to give that instruction while they're still probably on the penultimate size of wheels. I'm going to ask you to put your arms down slowly in a few seconds. And that way, you don't get half the class just doing this. They'll all do it, well, hopefully all do it. Another one I like to do is the iron bar. Now this one I sometimes chicken out of because I suddenly think I've got really sweaty armpits. Is that going to cause absolute mayhem as they laugh at me? But I have found actually that with that kind of stuff, you know, if you just say, I hope my sweaty armpits aren't too bad, or we can all show each other our sweaty armpits or whatever, you just own it a little bit. So just reach up for me, grab an iron bar, but it's just out of reach, so you need to stand on your tiptoes. Get your hands around the bar, and just see if you can push your feet back onto the grass. So we're trying to always use a little bit of imagery. Don't let go of the bar though, because whatever you're stepping on is going to eat you if you let go. Keep breathing, feel that stretch in the tummy. Feel your chest nicely elevated, and very slowly put your arms down. And that's another case in point where the order of the instruction is actually weirdly important. If you say put your arms down very slowly, all of their arms will go down very quickly because they've only listened to the first bit. This time, the bar is a little bit higher. You can feel the rust on it. Imagine the monkey bars in the park. So just reach up, grab that rusty bar. Imagine what colour it is. Breathe in the lovely outside air. Just push your heels back down into the ground. Don't let go of them. And very slowly, put your arms down, keeping your wonderful, tall, important-looking posture. And if you're feeling a bit slouchy during our session, just see if you can remember how well you stood, how important that made you feel while you're doing that. There's another nice exercise that I do, progressive tense. Another one where the order of instructions is pretty important. So standing well, just tense up your toes. Keep those really tense. Let's get our calves really tense. Then our thighs, then move up the body, tense your tummy, up into the shoulders, down the arms, clench your fists. For 5 seconds, let's have a really tense face as well. Keep your tense face while I give you these instructions. So, in order, our face is going to relax, then our fists, then up our arms. Down the body, very slowly relax your legs and give your toes a little wiggle, and then take a lovely breath. And you can then do that much more quickly as well, just toes, legs, tummy, shoulders, arms. I constantly get the order wrong, unfortunately, but I'm sure they just ignore me. And we've done the alien head, that's another good one. There are also, I don't think we're doing any today, but we've got some links on the warm-up, on the handout, those narrative warm-ups, like kind of waking up in the morning, yawning, the alarm clock goes, or you've maybe done the chewing gum or bubble gum man one. My colleague Alex has a lovely one about a tree. And they encompass all of the categories in a kind of overarching narrative. Put a link to a few of those on the handout. Our breathing exercises, again, the next thing, get a breath engaged. We've done the angry snake. You can imagine being a steam train, so just join in with me, get the pistons going. We'll accelerate a bit. Keep going, racing down the line. You feel your tummy working hard. Shout if you're right there. And then we'll slow down into the stations. And then stop and relax. That always makes my mouth quite dry, so I sometimes follow it by let's just chew gum really disgustingly. Have a good chew. Who is the most disgusting chewer at the Choral Leaders Festival? We can only see a few of you. I think Kate's going for it. Well done, Kate. Howard, it's a close second place. And you can feel how that just gets the saliva going a little bit again as well. Sometimes just for 4 beats. Off we go. And relax, and let's do 8 beats. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and relax, and 12 beats. Could you type in the chat what the next number in the sequence is going to be? I always lose count when I'm doing that bit. So what's the next number in the sequence, please? What are we going to go to? Pop it in the chat. We've had 4, 8, 12, 16. Well done, Elizabeth. Brilliant. We'll give you a sticker for that.
We're not asking you these things because we don't think you as grown-ups can do maths. It's just giving you some examples of what we'd ask the children.
So always...
But only Elizabeth answers. That is interesting.
It is, isn't it? I think it's because as adults we're so terrified of having missed some really kind of subtle element of getting something wrong. So yeah, anything you can build in a bit of questioning and engagement to works so well. You're giving a bit of ownership to the children. There are some other obvious ones. I had a lovely day yesterday. It was my birthday. I'm 87, so we're going to blow out all the candles on my cake. Put your hand on your tummy. Here's your candle, and let's blow out those 87 candles. Swap hands. Swap again. Swap again. And so on. And it's nice to have that bit of chat and banter about, am I really 87? It's alarming how many of them seem to think that that's a realistic possibility. Panting like a dog, hiccuping, gasping, and get them to feel what's going on around, our familiar band of muscle in the core. I'm going to hand over to Charlotte for the next bit.
So we've worked on our posture, we've got our minds engaged, we've worked on, done some breath control work. So let's move on to a little bit of vocalisation. So in the example one, I did a bit of throwing rotten tomatoes and throwing darts and things. Doing some sirening now, rather than just saying, right, okay, children, let's do some sirens. Eee! No, let's put a bit of imagery into that. So it might be put your voice into a beach ball and bounce that down and up, and it's going to go, oh! Okay? Or it might be, imagine you're watching out for some shooting stars and they go, hey! Or maybe leaves falling off a tree, or maybe fireworks, something like that. Or maybe it's just a little bit whining like a dog. Also, really good to have in the warm-up would be some semi-occluded vocal tract exercises. I just realised we didn't put any in our example warm-up, terrible. Or SOVT exercises you might have heard of. Now, I'm not a physicist and I can't explain fully why it works, but it's to do with the back pressure and the partial closure of your mouth encourages relaxed functional vocalization. Right? It encourages the vocal folds to meet together really well, and for this to all work really nice and healthily. But plenty of people more clever than me have researched this, and you can go and read their books. So it would be things to like a z, 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 or maybe singing to puffy cheeks, kind of go. They're all semi-occluded vocal tract exercises, so they are fantastic. So you might do it to some scales, so you might do a or maybe sing a bit of a familiar tune. Or maybe a little bit of a piece you're learning. Instead of just singing it back, you could do a bit to an SOVT sound. They are also less fatiguing on the voice, so it's quite a nice way to break up the rehearsal and to just give your voice a little bit of a rest. Moving on to some pitched exercises, some singing, so starting with a smaller range, vocal range, and opening it out. Obviously, lots of infinite scales and words and all sorts that you could do. I enjoy doing the things where children can make their own suggestions, like I did I like to sing in the shower. It just gives them that bit of ownership and bit of enjoyment that increases engagement. Or my dog has got fleas. Can you tell me another animal that might have fleas? And you end up with, like, my pterodactyl has fleas, and things like that. Another one I like, hasn't really got a good name, but we go, Ziva, Ziva, Zee. I'm sure you've heard that one before. Now, this one's for diction as well. Can you say, the cat had a hat and the bee had a flea? Off you go. The cat had a hat and the bee had a flea, and they jumped on a board, oh my lord. And they jumped on a board, oh my lord. The cat had a hat and the bee had a flea, and they jumped on a board, oh my lord. The cat had a hat and the bee had a flea, and they jumped on a board, oh my lord. The cat had a hat and the bee had a flea, and they jumped on a board, oh my lord. The cat had a hat and the bee had a flea, and they jumped on a board, oh my lord. Carry on with that one. Now, one that's really good if you're doing some particularly high singing. Can I have maybe a C major? Lovely. Would, you're going to imagine that you're trying to get you might be somebody very posh, and you're trying to get the attention of someone all the way at the other end of the field, and you're going to sing, it's me, and you've got to wave as well, it's me, it's me. So it's just getting the jump in between registers going there. And like I said, lots of 5-note scales, arpeggios, things like gooey, 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 goo, or mooey, 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 moo. All lovely exercises. So, as well as having the different categories of warm-ups, the other thing that we were just going to talk a little bit about today was what we tend to call transitions between different sections of the rehearsal. There might be other names for it. We call it transition. So it'd be just little fun games, songs, warm-ups, exercises, just to break up the flow of the rehearsal, just to transition you from one section to another, and to break up the long sections of concentration. So one way to do this would be with some call and response chants, all right? So it's getting the listening going, lots of singing. It's also a really good way if people are being a bit chatty, instead of being like, hey, you, shut up. All right, we're going to have ooh, alele, ooh, alele, ooh, alele, malatika tumba, malatika tumba, malatika tumba, malatika tumba, ooh, alele, malua, malue, ooh, alele, malua, malue. Children, what did I change about my singing then? And I really hope that they're going to say volume. Can you remember? Thank you, Caroline. It's from one of the Voice Works books. For most of these exercises, we can't claim that we've made them up, all right? It's usually from Voice Works, from Nikos books, all sorts. So, anyway, change to dynamics. And then that would be a lovely link if I was going to do some work about dynamics. Or if I'd done some work about dynamics last week, and I'd be like, oh, you remember dynamics from last week? One of the key points, recurrent points, that came up in the recent Ofsted publication that was about music education research. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It's terrible, I haven't wanted to mention it. But one of the current points and themes in that document was about music lessons not containing enough opportunity for reinforcement and recapping previous material. If you think that you've only got maybe one music lesson a week or one choir session a week, you're going to have to keep recapping things as much as possible because you know, there's a whole 167 hours until your next choir session. So just working in little things whenever you can is really, really key. And the call and response chance, yeah, I could have made it faster or slower or whatever. So we've got a few others call and response chants.
Yeah, should we whiz through them?
Yeah.
So as Charlotte was saying, enrich what you're doing. Don't just do the call and response chant, change the dynamics, change the tempo. Ask for a new leader, and instead of putting them on the spot by saying, you know, Helen, would you like to do it? Or who's going to volunteer to sing? Have a little skit. I'm so lazy. You know, show me out of 10 how lazy you think I am on your hand, on your fingers. They will try and do 50 or 100 for me. And then you can ask for a volunteer to lead the session. You know, I'm feeling a bit tired. Who wants to be the leader instead? And you're just kind of always trying to chip away at the idea that singing is somehow sometimes an adversarial or confrontational thing between the leader and the choir. So here's another little one. Heppa, heppa, nene.
Heppa, heppa, nene.
Heppa, heppa, nene.
Heppa, heppa, nene.
Heppa, ne, yada, hene, yo,
Heppa, ne, yada, hene, yo,
Now, from endless experience doing this, I know that most classes won't be able to do the first time. Heppa, ne, yada, hene, yo, if you've got some little E's, year 2, year 3, year 4, even year 6s find it hard. So anticipate that, break it down into smaller chunks to start with, rather than giving them the opportunity to fail at that. Hepane, yana, hene.
Hepane, yana, hene.
Yo,
Yo,
Heppa, hepane.
Heppa, hepane.
Heppa, hepane.
Heppa, hepane.
Hepane, yana, hene, yo, And later on, as you start to talk and they start to develop a better understanding of beat, tempo, you can always set these up and say to them, we're going to try Hepa Hepa Nene, and I'm going to count you in. I'm going to count you 4 beats at a different speed, and I'm going to see if you can pick the right speed. So 1, 2, 3, go.
Hepa Hepa Nene.
And so and then 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hepa Hepa Nene.
It is for me as well. And again, that's something that the model music curriculum and the Ofsted report come back to, is this practical understanding of these concepts, not just talking about beat and time signatures and tempo and learning a load of mysterious symbols and Italian words. It's, can you practically apply this? And if you're a visiting choral director or whatever, you know, just have the class teacher video a little bit of this, and that's all that's needed really in terms of assessment. And it's a little bit of evidence for them there as well. Do you want to do?
I've got an old classic for you now. Sing for pleasure, I think. Come la, come la vista.
Come la vista.
Oh no, vista.
Oh no, la vista.
Ini mini desa mini uala, ini mini.
Ini mini desa mini uala, ini mini.
Scatendun, scatendun, ra ra ra.
Scatendun, scatendun, ra ra ra.
Obviously, we have to break that one down, teaching. There's a lot to it.
There is, and also when you break down, they're never able to do the. They go back to the tonic for that. So I tend to just ignore that error because it's always right once they learn the whole thing. I like to ask them what the words mean.
I don't know what the words mean.
Absolutely nothing. It's just complete nonsense.
Please don't catch me out with these things.
So I'm going to do a little one that I I've realised before I left the house, I thought I must check the words at the end because I get them wrong every time. So I think I'm going to get the words wrong. So just ignore me. This is another one that exists on the internet loads. It's in VoiceWorks if you want to find a written down version of it as well. It's a lovely introduction to part singing. This is an overlapping song. And normally I would never explain that. I just try and set it up and see what happens. So, Tonga, 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 Chimney Chimney I can't remember. And I might just say to the class, did you notice what I was doing while you were singing? And I put their hands up and say,
singing.
Or they might say, if they're really listening and they're just beginning to be able to articulate what's going on musically, they might say,
I don't know what you're looking for.
No, that's all right. They might say, like, you were holding on the last notes.
I do want the music degree. I do know what's talking about.
And I find that you don't need to ever explain, I'm going to hold on the last note and you're going to sing. You just don't need to use up the time.
Sat in canoes. Tonga. Oh, I've never done that before, so that's a good idea. Thank you.
I like that. Thanks, Kate. I'm not coordinated enough to do that rhythmically, so I'm not going to try it today. Right, over to you. I think we've got another one of those.
Is it? Yes. Hey, hey, Ungua.
Hey, Ungua.
Hey,
Hey, Ungua.
Ungua.
Hey, Ungua.
Ungua. Ungua.
Ungua. Ungua.
Hey, Ungua.
Hey, Ungua. Hey, Ungua. Hey,
I noticed that Tom's singing Ungua, Ungua, and that's probably to stop, as children often do. They go Ungua, Ungua, which is lots of fun. All right, so maybe fade out the dynamics at the end of that one.
Cool. And you obviously noticed that Charlotte went up in pitch as well with each repetition. And another thing, just to maximise what you're getting out of these call and responses, don't do it 5 times at the same pitch.
What did I do with the music then? What happened? And trying to get them to articulate.
I think that the notes got higher.
Did they?
Yeah. Sometimes, of course, children, particularly early on in singing, will get pitch and volume and high and low. They've got no idea how to apply the adjectives correctly. So sometimes you might explain those concepts, but sometimes you might realise that you just need to move on. We're almost miraculously on time with our schedule, which is something that has never happened to me before. Spoken rounds. These are great. They're a really good way, again, to introduce part singing. Good way, if you've got some stroppy ones who you're not feeling like their voice is going to do anything that day, or need encouraging and engaging. These take a lot longer to teach normally, so I'm just going to whiz through it, and there are some links in our handout. So the first one is itsy bitsy, itsy bitsy.
Itsy bitsy, itsy bitsy.
Itsy bitsy, dipsy hippopotamus.
Itsy bitsy, dipsy hippopotamus.
Barbecue, Ken and barbecue.
Barbecue, Ken and barbecue.
Barbecue, Ken and barbecue.
Barbecue, Ken and barbecue.
Chugga chugga chicken or chocolate chip bubble chili up.
Chugga chugga chicken, chugga.
Yeah. That's one that I always do in full with a class for the first time, just because it's so funny when it goes wrong. And it's a really, it sounds cheesy, doesn't it? But it's a safe way of giving them permission to get something wrong, and nothing bad is going to happen when it falls apart. And then you break it down chuck a chop of chicken.
Chuck a chop of chicken.
Or chop a chip pot'll cheerly up.
Or chop a chip pot'll cheerly up.
Hey, now you know what? If you were doing that as a poem in your English, how would you describe what's happening in chuck a chop of chicken or chop a chip pot'll cheerly up? Can you pop it in the chat for me?
Chuck a chop of chicken. Chop a chicken.
What's going on with the words there? They'll all pop their hands up and say, alliteration! Mr. Kyle's been prompted in advance.
Thank you.
So, and again, the teachers sitting in your class are like that, you know, and you're just reinforcing stuff, drawing it, you know, the widening the context all the time. Apples, peaches, pumpkin pie.
Apples, peaches, pumpkin pie.
Apples, peaches, pumpkin pie.
Apples, peaches, pumpkin pie.
Banana, na, 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 na.
Banana, na, 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 na.
And I got that in the wrong order, because the next one is supposed to be grapes, 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 grapes.
Grapes, 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 grapes.
What happened in between the grapes?
Grapes, 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 grapes. There was a gap.
There was a gap. And then instead of saying, don't say grapes in the gap, you just say, did anyone squash a grape in the middle? Try not to squash the grapes. And then grapes, 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 grapes.
Grapes, 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 grapes.
Yeah, Anna, yes, it's all on the handout, and the handout has hyperlinks in it, so you just click on it. Where we've recorded these in our YouTube sessions that we did during lockdown, it'll take you straight to that exercise.
Julia, thank you for your question. Key stage 3, 4, I probably would use quite a few of these with them. There are, again, just sounds like we're plugging YouTube. Anyway, on our YouTube channel, our colleague Alex, who is in this room as well, or in this virtual room as well, he did some excellent sessions for Key Stage 3 and 4 specifically, so there'll be more ideas on there. But there's lots you can take away, so, you know, the idea of building a warm-up, and I suppose they kind of like to think themselves a bit more grown-up at Key Stage 3, 4, don't they? So maybe take some silliness out, but mostly they do like the silliness too.
Yeah, I'd agree with Charlotte, a bit embarrassing.
Yeah. Some of the short songs and things, I tend to find with Key Stage 3, 4, like gospel songs go down really well, sort of a bit of soulfulness, they tend to enjoy that sort of thing. Yeah, but I'd use a lot of similar things, to be honest, genuinely, maybe crossing over a bit into what you'd use more with grown-ups.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do all of these with the choral society I conduct. And once you've got over the, we're grown-ups, actually, and I do a lot of these with cathedral choirs here, who are excellent.
And they're older teenagers.
And they just all work really, really well, you know. It's to do with your confidence of delivering it more than anything, so not apologising for what you're about to do.
So there's a couple of spoken things, so the fruit-based warm-up that we just did, it will work us around, and I'm saying this, but we haven't practiced this, but we can try.
Yes, we can try.
Yeah, we can
okay.
try.
So again, one thing you can do, I'll try demonstrating, we've just got time. Don't explain that you're going to do it around. Imagine you've got your chunk of kids here. We start by learning it. Apples, peaches, pumpkin pie.
Apples, peaches, pumpkin pie.
And each one actually happens twice, but we won't do that now. Grapes, 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 grapes.
Grapes, 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 grapes.
Banana, na, 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 na.
Banana, na.
Let's do it together.
Na, na.
Apples, peaches, pumpkin pie. Apples, peaches, pumpkin pie. Grapes, 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 grapes. Na, 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 na. Apples, peaches, pumpkin pie. Apples, peaches, pumpkin pie. Grapes, 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 and so on. So you never need to say, now we're going to sing it in 3 parts, so we'll chop you up, and you know, that's 2 minutes of your half an hour gone. So, and if there's a bit of chaos in the middle, whatever, it'll be fine. Right, we've got a few mini songs. These are really nice. I'll miss a couple of them out, but they're all on the handout. One of our in-house favourites, introduced to us by one of our colleagues, but no idea where it came from.
Her dad wrote it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
This is Chicken and Chips. and it's a little bit of interaction here. So I'll sing, you sing back. Chicken and chips.
Chicken and chips.
Chicken and chips.
Chicken and chips.
Everybody here loves chicken and chips.
Everybody here loves chicken and chips.
We eat them all day, never throw them away.
We eat them all day, never throw them away.
We all love chicken and chips.
We all love chicken and chips.
Is it only love or like? I can never
Doesn't
remember.
really matter.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty good.
My colleagues tend to like put more little dramatic bits as well, but I'm not as interesting as them, so I miss those out. Let's do the whole song.
Chicken and chips, chicken and chips. Everybody here likes chicken and chips. We eat them all day and throw them away. We all like chicken and chips.
Great opportunity for register change as well. I'd just like you to do throw them away. So really relax. I always insist that bit is sung well and just happens naturally. Can anyone think of a food, because we're bored with chicken, I want something else to eat to go with my chips that begins with ch. So if you can pop your suggestion into the chat.
A child will always say tuna, bless them.
I'm coming on to that.
No, it does begin with a CH, I'm afraid, Richard. A ch sound.
But I do love fitness. And the other rule I use is no names. So you're not allowed to put Charlie and chips. Let's go. Oh, Richard, that's a great suggestion. Let's do Chewits and chips.
Chewits and chips, Chewits and chips. Everybody here likes Chewits and chips. We eat them all day, never throw them away. We all like Chewits and chips.
Oh, Andrew, chipolatas and chips. 1, 2, 3, 4. Chipolatas and chips, chipolatas and chips.
Everybody here likes chipolatas and chips. We eat them all day, never throw them away. We all like chipolatas and chips.
Children, every time, chainsaws.
Particularly tasty.
Yeah, and we sort of differ in what we do with this one. I quite like asking them if they can think of any words that begin with a ch sound, but not C and H, so tuna. Or can they think of anything that begins with C and H that doesn't make a ch sound? And so you get chemists and chiropodists and
chiropractors and chips.
I didn't know what to do when somebody said Christians and chips, particularly in the context of our employer. I think I let them do it actually, when they made some joke about gladiators. So let's move on to Bala Patazum.
Lovely. So this one I do better on the YouTube channel. This is another one from Lucy the Gagan book, and it is Bala 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 Patazum Zum Zum.
Bala 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 Patazum Zum Zum.
Bala Zum 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 Patazum Zum Zum.
Bala Zum 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 Patazum Zum Zum.
Bala 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 Patazum Zum Zum.
Bala 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 Patazum Zum Zum.
Bala Zum Patazum Bala Zum.
Bala Zum Patazum Bala Zum.
So, Bala 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 Patazum Zum Zum. Bala Zum 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 Patazum Zum Zum.
Bala 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 Patazum Zum Zum. Bala Zum 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 Patazum Zum Zum.
Bala 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 Patazum Zum Zum. Bala Zum Patazum Bala Zum.
Bala 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 Patazum Zum Zum. Bala Zum Patazum Bala Zum.
Now, every time you say bala, you're going to tap your knees, okay? Off we go.
Bala 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 Patazum Zum Zum.
Lovely. And then we'll go through that. And then the next time, when it's pata, it's a ba. And when it's zoom, it's on your shoulders. Off we go.
Bala 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 Patazum Zum Zum. Bala Zum Zum Zum. Patazum Zum Zum. Bala 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 Patazum Zum Zum. Bala Zum Patazum Bala Zum.
Well done, Tom. Well done.
I did that on YouTube. I had to practice it for about 3 weeks before I could get it right. I think that's another point. I think I've put it in a very patronising way on our handout. You've got to learn this stuff. in advance. You cannot look at left luggage on the morning and think, oh, that's cool, I'm going to have a go at this.
Or try to say chicken chocolate chip bottle chili on a Zoom call full of people.
You did really well. You did really well. Now we're coming towards the end of the session, so we might miss out these next bits.
That's fine. That's fine. They're all on the handout. Zoom on YouTube.
Our last category is sort of the total silliness, the mayhem stuff, which is a lovely reward we find, particularly Key Stage 2, but actually in small doses, the older ones, you know, particularly once you get to know them.
But you've been in the choir for years.
Yeah, absolutely. So, my favourite is Go Bananas, which I'm sure some of you will know, and we'll do a tiny bit of it. It's really important in these, and because you want that productive approach to singing all the time, but you insist on the singing being really good. If the singing's not really good, we're going to have to stop. We're not going to be able to do it. Similarly, if there's any silliness or we can't keep our hands to ourselves or feet to ourselves, we have to stop. And then you actually have to do stop, or stop them and make sure the singing's good. So this one starts off with, you can see me dressed as a banana on YouTube doing this as well if you want. Bananas of the world unite! Oh, Alex, a commitment to the cause there. Well done. You're almost dressed as a banana.
And he's wearing yellow.
So
and his paint. Well, excellent.
So you do that, and you don't explain it. You just say, join in. Peel banana, peel banana, peel banana, peel banana, chop banana, chop banana, chop banana, chop banana, mash banana, mash, and so on. They like throw banana, kick banana, sick banana, clean banana, and then at the end, go bananas, go bananas.
I think I should point out at this point that I'm available for, choral societies, to do messiahs and things like that.
So what I also do in this one, so the teachers don't hate you as you send the kids off completely wired into their nice class, is you have them going nuts with that. And then actually a demonstration of the power of some of these call and response songs. I always then do and once you've done that at that tempo and that dynamic, actually that wildness is just dissipated and it's back to listening, it's back to being in control. And at no point have you had to berate anyone, so it's all being positive. I think we've got a couple of other silly ones, we've put links there. Will you feel sad if you don't do Hello, my name's Joe? No, I can never do it. I would be humiliated on screen. Yeah, lovely ideas.
I like it, Kate.
Yeah, brilliant. So, thank you all so much. We're happy to stay for 5 minutes if there are questions or anything.
Boom said the cat.
Oh, boom said the cat. Boom said the cat, and the cat said boom, boom, boom. Shh, cat, don't be so loud.
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. There's a link on the handout. So great. Thank you very much.
Very, very welcome. Some familiar names on here, so nice to see you.
Can I just add my huge thanks? It's been fantastic, Tom and Charlotte. Just such a brilliant range of warm-ups and vocal exercises for all of us to take away and use with children and adults. And thank you so much for a really comprehensive handout.